Hi guys, it's New. So right after I recorded last week's Fibromyalgia Awareness Day video, I realized that a week later is World IBD Day. And something I never realized before is that they have the same color ribbon. It's purple. As you may have noticed, I really like the color purple. So the two most common types of IBD are Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, which I have. There are many different kinds too, and there are even people living with IBD who don't really have a clear diagnosis of which illness they actually have. Ulcerative colitis was actually my first diagnosis in the long list of ones that I have now. Even though it took me until adulthood to get diagnosed, just like with my other illnesses, I had a lot of the symptoms and a lot of warning signs that came when I was a kid. I just remember always at school I had a stomach ache, and I remember sitting in class and almost sweating from the intensity of the cramps that I was getting in my tummy. And I was bloated, I was extremely gassy. It started with the doctor saying, well, maybe you're lactose intolerant. So we cut all the milk out, we cut all the dairy out. And it didn't really change much if I think about it. Sure, dairy was really hard for me to digest back then because I didn't really have a gut, flora. I didn't have a nice, healthy microbiome to help me digest things. And so going to a milk alternative, non-dairy, lactose-free diet, it helped me to be less gassy, but in the end, I still had stomach aches all the time. I still felt so sick all the time. And now as an adult, I don't really like to do milk substitutes because not only, do I have a better microbiome now, but the emulsifiers in milk substitutes tend to irritate my colon even more. And honestly, when I started drinking raw milk, especially raw goat's milk, I saw a huge change in my health because I'm getting all those probiotics and all the enzymes from the milk. Tangent that I will cover in a separate video, but this is why it's really important for wellness communities and vegan communities to listen to the stories of people like us. I can't go vegan. It would be really cool if I could. My dad's a vegetarian. I was raised by a vegetarian dude. I am used to eating fake meats and fake cheeses. I like them. They're good. The state that my body is in now, and even when I was a kid, it was honestly just not the best for me. And if I went vegan now, it would make me really, really sick. So yeah, that's a whole other conversation, but the point is, since I was little, I was always, trying to do what I thought was right for my stomach, and we didn't really know what was wrong. We just thought, oh, you're lactose intolerant, okay, well, we'll do these things. It was no one's fault. But by the time I was 15, I just had really bad acid reflux, and that's when I got my first colonoscopy, because I was just always having pain, and I just felt awful all the time. And when they did the colonoscopy, they also did an endoscopy, so they looked down my throat too. And when I came out, they were like, okay, you're good, nothing really, super concerning and urgent, but you literally have ulcers in your esophagus, in your stomach, and in your colon. So they put me on acid reflux medication, and that helped with the burning and all that discomfort. But in the end, it didn't help with my colon problem, obviously. So my second colonoscopy was when I was going through all of the really bad stuff, like the vomiting and the, bleeding from my colon every day and all kinds of problems there. That's kind of a red flag, especially because colon cancer does run in my family, and a couple of my family members do have or have had ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So they wanted to check me out again, and that's number 2. Guess how many colonoscopies I've had? I've had 4 or 5, I lost count. If you've never had a colonoscopy, let's talk about it. And it's important for me to talk about these grosser parts of having a disease like this, because I think with, digestive diseases, we tend to be really shy, oh, we don't talk about that because it's, oh no, it's poop, it's the butt stuff, it's vomiting, it's very gross. For me, it's important to talk about it so that we don't have that much of a stigma, because when we have a stigma about things like that, we won't talk about when we're not feeling well and when we need help. It only helps other people to be more compassionate if we can openly tell our stories. Again, if you are not comfortable talking about your butt disease, you don't have to. I'm gonna for your sake, okay? But yeah, so when you get a colonoscopy, you have to go on a Jell-O diet, and then they give you this giant tub of laxatives. It tastes and feels like you're trying to drink someone's spit after they've had a rotten Gatorade or a gross candy bar. It's thick and gross, and while you're drinking it, you want to throw up, but then it starts making your bowels move and stimulate them so that you can clear yourself out. And then when you go in for the procedure, you know, you're not wearing any pants or underwear because they gotta get in there, and it's very unpleasant. And I've done it so many times now because, like, after you get diagnosed, you're supposed to have a routine, like every 2-year screening, just to make sure it didn't develop into polyps or cancer. And then you wake up, it's like no time has passed, you're in your little hospital bed, you've got all your things on, your butt is wet, and the nurse comes over and says, you need to fart. And you say, excuse me? And she says, you need to fart. If you start farting, then you can go home. But until you fart, you can't leave here. I just remember you lay there and you try to fart, and then finally you fart, and she says, okay, I'm gonna call your dad and he's gonna pick you up. And then you get to go home. But then afterward, I'm usually really sore, and so I'll have a smoothie, or like I'll mash up some bananas with milk and honey, and just something really soothing and simple. So that's an example of something that we have to go through when we have butt diseases. Like, it sucks, but it's for the good of our health, right? Oh, here's a story. So when I was in high school and I had to get that first colonoscopy done, before they did it, they needed stool samples. This is another fun thing that we have to do. So you have to actually poop.
And collect your poop.
Label it in a bottle that they give you, and then, like, for a week, you have to do that every day.
Collect your poop.
And then you have to turn it into the doctor, and then they analyze it for bacteria, blood, whatever, anything, disease. They do that first. And I want to preface this by saying I have forgiven the friend who did this. I'm just telling it because it's a funny story now. So please, friend or friends of that friend, if you see this video, I'm not trying to drag them, I'm not trying to call them out. This is what happened. We were kids, okay? So here's what happened to little new hologram in 9th or 10th grade. I think it was 10th. As you can imagine, I was telling my two best friends about this because it was a hilarious ordeal. Like, oh my god, I can't believe the doctor needs me to collect my shit. So we would laugh about it and stuff. And then one of those friends, for some reason, thought it was appropriate to tell a bunch of people in another class about it. Like, oh my god, New has to collect her poop. These were a bunch of my classmates who already knew me as being that weird kid. Suddenly, my health problems and the embarrassing thing that I had to go through was on display, and it was a funny joke, and I had a bunch of people I didn't know looking at me and going, this girl had to collect her shit, ha ha ha. That was really unpleasant at the time. It's funny now, but I bring it up to say, you know, we need to be supportive of our friends who are going through this. We need to also respect someone's, like, privacy. You know, if you wouldn't want someone sharing that kind of information about you, you probably shouldn't do it. I'm actually in the middle of a colitis relapse right now. It's not terrible, it could be way worse, but there are really long stretches of times where I'm in relapse, and it's like every single day I'm losing blood out of my colon, and as you can imagine, I start to get really fatigued and tired. It's just uncomfortable. But even though I consider myself a pro at handling this illness, it's always throwing curveballs at me. Even after diagnosis, it's still really hard. Like, even when you have a doctor acknowledging, like, yeah, you have this illness, it's hard because, like, when I was first diagnosed, my doctors gave me, like, a big box of enemas, like steroid enemas. And you have to put them up your butt, and you have to lay on your side for 30 minutes. And I would go back to the doctor and say, hey, these meds aren't working. I'm still bleeding out my butt every day. Just like so uncomfortable. I can't eat anything without feeling pain. And the doctors are just like, and they fix their glasses, and they fix their tie, and they get a piece of paper, a pamphlet, and they come over and they would lecture me for like an hour about the medication and its creation and the guy who created it and the test results and the blah and blah. Yes, some doctors will be able to help. That doesn't mean you know, don't give up. You can still try and seek second, third, fourth, fifth. Just keep seeking more opinions. You will find the right match. There are a lot of things that affect the relationship that we have with our doctors and their ability to care for us when their hands are tied by insurance and like the, you know, status quo. This disease, this medication. I mean, for shit's sake, like one of the doctors told me, no, you could have fried chicken every day. It wouldn't affect your colitis. That's horse shit. And I've had like 2 older male GI doctors be like, oh, well, you know, your case is not that severe. You know, I have patients who had to have their whole colon removed. You're not like them. You should be happy. They just invalidate everything that we talk about. So like I said, you know, just keep looking around and, you know, don't give up. Try different things, you know, do some research. You can learn about your illnesses. I love watching like seminars on gut diseases on YouTube, and they're like an hour long. You learn so much, and you can do research on things that'll help. I have a NutriBullet that I love that I use for smoothies every day. I like for my colitis to do, you know, banana, beets, a little bit of mint, some ginger, psyllium husk. There's a bunch of things that you can take every day to help soothe your colitis. But also I try to do a lot of probiotics. So not only do I take probiotics in pill form, I do like yogurts and cheeses, kimchi, you know, there's all kinds of things that you can add to your diet, but you also want to be doing the fiber for the probiotics. You got to feed them, so like sweet potatoes, stuff like that. Sometimes even when I do everything that I'm supposed to be doing, I'm still in bed in a lot of pain with a heating pad on my stomach and just drinking like a drinkable yogurt because that's all that I can keep down. And even then, you know, it's really hard not to get depressed because it's like, I don't want to be like dealing with all this, you know. Just take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to be mad about it, but try to just breathe and say, you know, I'm resting right now because my gut is inflamed and bleeding or doing whatever it's doing, and my body needs this. You know, I'm very lucky that I haven't had it severe enough to like where I would be completely hospitalized and on like tubes and stuff for it. I'm very, very lucky. That doesn't mean it doesn't impact my life. The reality is millions of people are living with these kind of illnesses, and, you know, they're scary. They're unpleasant. They're not cute or pretty. They're not necessarily Instagrammable, but there are some really cool Instagrammers who talk a lot about their Crohn's disease and their colitis, even ones who have had, what's it called, the ostomy. And they educate about it, and it's amazing. And I really look up to them, and they inspire me to talk about it and to laugh about it a little bit because, yeah, sure, it's embarrassing. What else am I gonna do? You know, cry about it? Be embarrassed? Never talk about it? Another thing, too, is that when we have characters with some form of IBD in, like, movies and TV shows, like Along Came Polly, the IBD is this hilarious, you know, it's played for laughs. Obviously, that was a comedy. But, like, the idea of someone eating food that is bad for them and then suffering a lot for it and their brains out and possibly bleeding, that is like a whole, you know, laugh track situation. And it kind of sucks because it's like, yeah, like I'm choosing to like be positive and laugh about it. But the truth is, when you're trying to like go out with friends or travel with family or do anything and you end up like on the toilet and in pain and rushing and like worrying and so much, you start to develop that anxiety that you're gonna have an attack. And then that attack, you have like a panic attack on top of the, you know, your brain's attack. It's really rough, it's really draining, and people with IBD also have a risk of, you know, depression and suicide, just like the other chronic illnesses. The best way to be an ally to those of us with some form of IBD is to ask us, you know, when you want to hang out, like, are you flaring now? Are you okay? Or do you want to go get smoothies? If you are, like, you know, where are you at? Because friends will invite me to dinner and stuff all the time, especially like Korean barbecue late at night, which is my favorite thing, and I can't go most of the time. Even if I'm in remission, eating a meal like that late at night could result in me throwing up all night and then bleeding from my butt. And it's happened before, and it sucks because like I go out and I want to have fun, I want to see my goddamn friends, I want to eat good food, and try to keep that in mind. And like when you go places with your friend and they need to know where the bathrooms are, just try to be accommodating, you know, just be supportive. There's nothing worse than like standing over someone who is throwing up or like on the toilet and just like being annoyed and like inconvenienced about it. Like if you have a friend who has a chronic illness and they're an inconvenience to you and it really upsets you that much, then you probably shouldn't be friends with them because you are not able to give what that friend might need, you know? It's not that it's your responsibility to, but if it is making you act in any kind of bad way to them for something they can't control, then you are doing harm to them as a sick person. They are the ones being hurt. You are not being victimized by their illness. That's really, really important for me to stress, because so many times in every chronic illness, I hear all kinds of stories of people being yelled at by their family. I've experienced this, yelled at by family, by friends, teased, just bullied, verbally abused, mentally, emotionally, all kinds of bad shit that comes from someone, whether or not they're in a caretaker position. It could be a family member, a friend. The second that person feels victimized by the other person being sick, there's a huge problem, because that lends itself to like the kind of behavior where you are perfect and you're the one being hurt, and it enables abuse to happen. And it doesn't mean that you're an abuser if you've ever had that kind of thing. It can be kind of a heavy load to take care of someone or to be there for someone who is sick. But once it gets to that point again where you are the victim in your mind because they're sick and they're doing it to you, take a step back and have some awareness and be really kind. Make an effort to be really kind when you talk to that person. Because if you start going off on them for not making enough money, for not being productive in the house, or not doing the chores, or not helping with whatever, especially if they are like actually sick in that moment, throwing up while you're yelling at them, or in bed in pain. It sounds crazy that I would have to even say this, but this is something that I have heard about so much and that I've experienced. And it's really weird, this disconnect. It's like, oh, someone I care about is really sick. I'm the victim here. I'm the one being hurt. It's a trauma thing. It's something to do with that person's own trauma. It has nothing to do with the sick person. So it's hard to even judge it. But I really want both sides to have an awareness. When the healthy person or the caretaker doesn't have an awareness of that, it enables them to do bad things, like say mean things or abusive things, or just be not that supportive because they feel that they're the ones being wronged. And then on the other hand, the sick person who is being like yelled at and stuff, they're already probably dealing with depression. They're already probably feeling like, I don't know if I can keep living this way. And when you put that on them and make them feel really guilty about it, you're just increasing the risk of suicide. I know that that's pretty harsh to say, but it's that kind of interaction with an already sick, suffering, person who is probably in despair about their situation. It's really hard to be positive when you're throwing up and bleeding out your butt and, ulcerative colitis, IBD, they never come alone. It's always paired with some other kind of illness. So can you just take that step back and try to have some compassion and patience with your sick friend? And sick friend, you are not obligated to like forgive this person at every turn, because it's gonna hurt and you're gonna need to process it, but you will be okay. And try to have compassion and awareness that something is very wrong in their inner landscape if you being sick is them being hurt, okay? It has nothing to do with you and your productivity and how much money you make or can't make because you're sick. It has everything to do with that person, okay? That was a much longer tangent that I meant to go on, but I feel like it's really, really important to say because it hurts. It hurts really bad when you're trying your best and you're sick. This flare-up that I've been having, it started a couple weeks ago. I had a busy weekend. I didn't get any sleep the night after because I was puking and I had to go to work. I had to get up at 6 a.m. to go to work, so I didn't sleep the whole time. I'm throwing up. At 6 a.m. I just had to get up from the toilet and start putting my makeup on, and I was so sick and so depleted that my dad had to drive me to set. And I had to take a lift back. Thank goodness we have services like this, and that my dad was off that morning so that he could take me because I could barely stand. And then I had a day off, and then I booked another job that was only like a 5-hour shoot, and I literally was leaning on things between takes because I was so weak. That's just from one session of throwing up all night. So as a result of all this, I haven't been working a lot. I've been home a lot. I've been doing some freelance, and it's just enough. I'm gonna be okay, and I have my patrons, and I have hopefully more work coming as the month goes on. We're in May now. But it gets scary, like no working for 3 weeks, right? starting to run out of money. It's scary. It's never easy going through that. It's hard to stay in a place of like having faith that like the money's gonna come, the paychecks are gonna come, it'll be just enough. When your bank account gets like smaller and smaller, you go into panic mode. It's important to take that step back and say, okay, I'm taking this time off for my body. I need to take care of it because it's not well right now. Like, I missed a really cool audition yesterday that I was so excited about because I knew if I made myself get up at 5 to get ready and do my makeup and drive in 2-hour traffic there and then 2-hour traffic back, I would be in bad shape. I would probably get home, immediately start throwing up, and just be a mess the rest of the time. So I had to tell my agent, I'm really sorry, I'm too sick to make it. It sucks, but I had a realization, you know, if I'm so desperate for money that I would compromise my health to go to that audition, then it's not going to come to me. Things can't come to you in that kind of desperation. So I let it go and I said, you know what? Thank you for letting me take this day off and keep resting. I'm gonna really take care of myself. And I slept most of the day. I medicated the whole time just to try to get myself to knock out. Still felt like shit, but you know, I'm making a little bit of progress. Hang in there, you guys. You are so strong. I think that there's no such thing as normal or completely healthy. I think that even healthy people are developing illnesses because of the environment and stress and just everything that we've got going on in our modern human world. But it hits you sometimes and you think, wow, there are people out there who could eat anything, any time of the day, and they never get sick. And it's like, whoa, it sounds fake, right? But you guys, with your bowel diseases, you are still getting up each day. You are working at it. You are doing what you can to take care of yourself. You are so, so strong for it. Okay, that's it. That's all I had to say for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, and special shout out to my superstar holograms, Tate and Kuroneko. I leave you guys with a good luck kiss. Mwah, and may the spoons be with you. Bye. If you couldn't tell, I'm having kind of a rough time. I've been having to medicate in the morning. So right after I recorded last week's